Okay, I have here the Sigma SD Quattro. It's an unusual looking mirrorless camera, and it has the APS-C Foveon sensor from the DP Quattro range in it. It's got quite a large flange on it there. That's because, unlike other mirrorless cameras, you can actually use a Sigma mount, Sigma's own DSLR lenses. So on the top we have the hot shoe, we have an EVF, shutter button, control wheel there, compensation there, and that one locks them. The on-off button is in an unusual place, and that's here. On the side here we have the SD card slot. On this side we have an HDMI port, we have USB 3. The shutter release is a Sigma proprietary shutter release. On the bottom we have the battery compartment and a considerably bigger battery than in the DP Quattro range, which means it lasts much longer. It's got this stepped piece on the bottom here, and that you can put a grip on there as well to hold another battery. On the back there's a very large screen. You'll see in a second this is actually split into two if we turn it on. So you've got the display here, and you've got an LCD here which shows you all the details which you would have up here on a DSLR. You have view mode here. We have a switch to go from the EVF to automatic, so when we go over the EVF it switches, or just monitor. I really like that because I use that a lot and I miss it on several of my other cameras. Play button, trash, autofocus lock, so you can do back focus there. You've got the standard D-pad, you've got ISO, various different modes on there, your menu options, focus points here, and we have the QS button here, which brings you into a quick menu, so you can change various settings quite quickly, and these different options you can actually adjust within the menu. So it's very customizable, very easy to use. The grip is more conventional than the DP Quattro, and it's quite chunky, but it fits really well in the hand, and it's very comfortable even with quite a large lens on it. And one of the unusual things about the SD Quattro is that, you can see in there, but the IR filter is sitting on there. You can actually just pull it. I'm not going to do it now, but you can actually just pop it out, so you can convert this to an IR camera really very easily. I have one more cover there, which is a flash PC sync port, which is quite unusual on cameras these days. So we've got the back of the camera here. I'm just going to go through the menus. So they're set out into camera, playback and tools. It's quite easy to work your way through. So we've got the various ISO sensitivity steps, the ISO range, so when you're on auto you can choose an upper and lower limit. Drive mode, you've got the usual single, continuous, 2 second, 10 second interval timers. So you can actually set this up and do time lapse. I can go into the menus here, so we've got bracketing modes, SFD mode, which is a superfine detail mode and takes, I believe it's 7 shots and then combines them into one very large raw file, which you can only process using the Sigma software at the moment. We have white balance, image quality, so we've got the usual settings in there, image size. One thing to note, super high is only available for JPEG onlys. One thing to note about the Sigmas is when you change the setting on here, it also affects the RAW files, unlike some of the other cameras where the RAW file will always be the largest setting. On the Sigmas, if we go down to low, it will shoot a low resolution RAW file. You can change the image aspect ratio there, various different color profile modes. These are all selectable on the raw file converter as well. Color space, tonal control, so we can change the curves there. Auto rotate the image, quick preview. So preview exposure in manual mode, so this is useful if you're in a studio and you set up the camera on manual and you're using a flash. You still want to be able to see what's on the viewfinder and the screen. Exposure compensation, this dial here you can turn it on and off. So you can swap the dial functions here, so there's quite a few different options on there to change whether you want the front or the rear dial to do shutter aperture. Dial rotation, so we can have it left or right, reversed. Okay, exposure compensation the same. So this is for these back focus buttons. You can set that up on this menu here. Focus peaking, we can change the color of that. So priority in single focus mode, we can have it to make sure it focuses first before you press the button, and similar in continuous focusing. AF assist light, we have face detection on here as well. Okay, in the playback menu you've got various options there to lock it so you can't delete it, rotating it, all things like that. You can develop the raw files on the camera. You can have your exposure warnings on or off so you get the blinking highlights. The OK button here, if you press the center button there, it will do a full image magnification. You can change that there. The image rotation is set to 1 because we want it to rotate. So in the tool settings we have custom modes, so we can save different setups. This is what I was talking about the quick start menu. We can change which ones actually go on the menu, so if you personally use different options to me, you can do that. You can set what gets locked and what doesn't when the camera has this little lock slider put over. So we can have what options you want on the menu screen. We have a lot of options on here, so you've got 4 different custom options and then 2 standard options. So that display, it shows you what's on the screen. Every time you press the display button you can get a different, this one here, you can get a different set of information on the screen, and also you can set that for the viewfinder independently of the monitor. So this outer frame display, we have it here semi-transparent. What that is if you set up the ratio to say a square, it will, instead of just blanking out the edges of the square black, it'll make them semi-transparent so you can still see what's coming in and out of the frame to compose it, but then obviously the inside is lighter so you can see what you're actually taking a photograph of. The sound settings, we can change the different volumes there. The electronic level, which I find one of the most useful features on a camera. We can change the file naming, file numbering settings, eco mode. I have things like that turned off because I want it to work as quickly as possible, but if you want to save the batteries you can turn those things on, and extended mode is a similar thing. LCD brightness there, when it's going to turn the LCD off, when it's going to turn the power off. You can see we've got Wi-Fi settings on there as well. And on here we have USB mode, because this camera will actually tether into their software. Format the SD card, set them in, set the date and time, and set the language. Okay, and on the last one we can actually set in copyright information into here, which is really useful just to have it in the EXIF data. You have information on the camera there if you want to do a firmware update, which I won't do, and reset the camera settings back to 0. So that's it.